Yo, what's going on, guys? Back with another video today. So it is actually 1:33 in the morning, so Merry Christmas to you all. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Hope you have an action-packed day in DFS, because I know I will. So I'm just going to quickly go over some lineups here because I don't really want to make this video as long as I usually do. I apologize for not getting videos out past couple days. I was actually up in Maine visiting some family up there. But we're back at DFS today, and hopefully we can get this video out for you early in the morning, give you plenty of time to open all your gifts, and hopefully open another one with this lineup. So I'm just going to quickly go over my lineup here that I have on my screen. So I'm playing one tournament and then one double up tomorrow. So in my tournament lineup, I'm going to be running. Obviously, this is actually going to be on Fanduel. I hope I mentioned that in the title. But as of right now, I know a lot of people are going to run with their stars and scrubs lineup, right? You know, you get the LeBron James, the Giannis Antetokounmpos, the James Hardens, the Russell Westbrooks. There's a lot of guys like that tomorrow that are going to be great plays. But personally, in my opinion, I think that going with a contrarian play, especially in a tournament, is going to be really good. There are a lot of really good mid plays tomorrow that are, in the 8K range and the 7K range that you could definitely fit into your lineups. And I really feel like they're going to, they'll still have decent ownership just because of the players that they are. But I still think it provides less than, like, a Giannis who's going to be 50 to 60% owned in some tournaments. It's just a differentiation in your lineup, which could be the difference between you cashing out or you not cashing out or you hitting big, which hopefully we do tomorrow. So I'm just going to give you my lineup. I don't think I'm going to do a deep dive like I usually do. Like I said, I want to keep it short. As I mentioned, it is 1:30, so my attention span is going to be a bit low. So first, we're going to start off at the point guard position. So I think what I'll do is I'll overview each position, and then I'll give you my top couple plays out of the lineup. So if you have a couple guys in mind already, if you've watched a couple other videos, you can plug them in as well. This is just going to be my personal lineup, and then, like I said, I'll give you some ideas, and you can make a decision for yourself whether you think that they're a good play or not a good play. So first one is going to be Ben Simmons for the 76ers. Obviously, they're going against the Bucks tomorrow. Should be a really good game. It's going to be one game where I know a lot of people are talking about, this is the game that Giannis will play 35 minutes and score 70 to 80 fantasy points and really break the slate. But if you notice, a lot of people will be like, oh, you obviously have to play this guy, and then he does either okay or he just doesn't cut it, And I'm not saying Giannis is one of those players tomorrow for sure, but I am saying that I do think if you want to go contrarian and Giannis for some reason doesn't put up, a huge game tomorrow, I think it'll be huge to try to run, a bunch of mids, and in this case, Ben Simmons being one of them, going against the Bucks. So it's going to be a really good game, like I mentioned. In his last couple games, Ben Simmons obviously put up that great triple-double where he scored 16 points, had 13 rebounds, 17 assists against Detroit. And that was with no blocks or steals, and he still had 53 fantasy points. And he had 4 turnovers in that game. So, you could have said that game could have been up to a 60-point game easily. And playing 37 minutes obviously is a huge upside. And then previously, he's just put up a lot of numbers right around the triple-double area. And his last, 6 games or so, he's had a 53, a 46, a 35, a 39, a 38, and a 58. So just in those last 6 games there, you're looking at an average of about, 43 or so. And at a guy at an 8K range, I will absolutely take a low 40s. And then in this, environment, obviously, with tomorrow being Christmas Day, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the stars to perform. And I think between him and Embiid, they're going to have really good games. but I just like Simmons' price a little bit better, which is why I'm going to stick with Simmons in my first point guard slot. My second point guard slot is going to go to Patrick Beverley. So I was actually a little unsure about Patrick Beverley's status heading into today, but he did practice on Tuesday, and because of that practice, the team says he will play on Wednesday, which means if Patrick Beverley plays his regular workload, he'll play about 28, 29 minutes, and then depending on the closeness of the game, which with it being the Lakers, I obviously feel like it's going to, be very close. I think he has a chance to play up to 29 to 30 minutes even. And if he's really got it going, he has 40-point upside. And, he's a $4,600, salary player. He's a guy that can get 4 steals in a game, which is huge. He's obviously a really great defensive player. If he plays up to that 30 to 35 minutes in the game, I think he really provides a lot of high upside tomorrow. Just recency bias might, stray people away from him. He only has one 30-plus game in his last 4 that he's played in total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. So, I mean, in 3 of those games he didn't play, and 2 of them he played 25 minutes or less. So, actually, in 3 of them he played 25 minutes or less. So, if he plays that 30-minute mark, which I do see tomorrow, Patrick Beverley should be a really nice value play there at point guard. Next, going to the shooting guard position. First one, D'Angelo Russell. Someone obviously on Golden State's going to have to keep them in the game. D'Angelo Russell's been, their main guy on offense lately, playing 30-plus minutes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their past 7 games. Outside of that one game against the Kings where he only played 27, he had 8 points and 8 assists in that one. That was a really strange outlier game for him. Most games he'll play, low 30s to mid 30s in minutes. He's one of those guys that can score a ton. He puts up a lot of shots, and on primetime game like Christmas Day, I could definitely see him scoring high 20s, low 30s, maybe even into the 40s or 50s in regular points. And I could definitely see him hitting the 40-plus value in terms of Fanduel points. Really like D'Angelo Russell tomorrow. I think he'll be a high ownership guy just because of the high key matchup. But I really like him going into tomorrow. Only priced at 8.2. Definitely has a chance to crush that value. Next guy, we're talking about the same team, Damian Lee. Damian Lee, he's even been marked on FanDuel as a really good Golden State value. He's been playing in the lineup, in the starting lineup since Glenn Robinson's been out, though it is looking like Glenn Robinson's coming back tomorrow, so we'll have to see how his minutes are affected. But he's played very well with the minutes that he's had. Obviously, he's played, an uptick in minutes, going from 25, ranging from 25 to 34. Been scoring about 30 fantasy points. I really like Damian Lee, but we will have to watch, the status of, of Glenn Robinson, and if Glenn Robinson is in fact playing, obviously this will impact guys like Damian Lee, like Alec Burks, and we'll have to see really what the minutes minutes layout's going to be. But if the case is that I don't feel Damian Lee is going to get decent enough run, you could always look to a guy, like Dante DiVincenzo if you can get there, 5,100. I think he'll get the minutes. And then looking at, if we go a little lower, obviously these are going to be more shot in the dark guys, but guys like Ben McLemore, who have high point upside on a primetime slot where, Houston's going against Golden State. He's going to be coming off the bench in this one. Not playing as high of minutes lately. He's been more into that mid-20s range, scoring about in the mid-teens with scoring. But if he ends up playing into that 30-minute, realm, he could definitely get up to 25 to 28 fantasy points. And he could definitely hit his spot at 3,800 salary. So I do like him, but there's just not a ton of value with the shooting guard position. So there might have to be a little fiddling around with the lineups. Um, but I do think for now we're going to stick with Damian Lee, or maybe go to a guy like Gary Harris, who's not really a high usage guy, but at 4,600, he's been playing 30 plus minutes recently. He could have a game where he plays 35 minutes and only scores 16 to 18 fantasy points, but he could also go off like he did against the Lakers and score 40 fantasy points. So, for a guy at the 4,600 range, you might just have to take a risk here, but Gary Harris is one of those guys that scares me a little bit, especially, if he puts up 16 on a big popular slate like this, it's not going to be great. So as of right now, I'm sticking with Damian Lee, but that could change as time goes. Next, we're going to look at the small forward position. Right now, I actually am able to spend decently high at that position. So first, I have Paul George, who's actually priced down to 8K. Paul George, this is pretty much based off of recency bias. Hasn't had a great last 2 games. Kawhi's been a lot more effective. Paul George only has 26 and 21 in those last 2 games. And you can't even say it was the minutes against OKC. It was just he wasn't productive. He had 18 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers. And he scored 25 points. But then the game before that against Houston, he puts up 58 fantasy points. And then 2 games before that, puts up 40 fantasy points. Game before that, puts up 62. 2 games before that, puts up 60. So this is a guy that can easily score 60. If his shot's fallen. I think, with Kawhi tomorrow, he's going to have a lot of his attention on LeBron James. Which actually makes my next pick interesting, which is LeBron James. But I think Paul George is going to have a lot more of the offensive upside, and I think him and Beverly are going to make a nice team tomorrow. That could be a really good matchup for them. And then going into LeBron James, it's Christmas, guys. LeBron James always comes to play on Christmas. He's one of the all-time tops in terms of points on Christmas, assists, minutes played, games played, wins, all that sort of stuff. He's a triple-double guy. He can score you those 60 to 70 fantasy points if you need them, but he's more around like that 50 range, which I really like. He's below 10K, which is pretty rare for a guy like LeBron. Obviously, high usage. Him and Anthony Davis are going to be playing tomorrow, which might actually lower the ownership on LeBron because a lot of people will be thinking, okay, LeBron James will have to give up the ball to Anthony Davis a lot. So I don't think I'm going to get to him. But it's interesting. The couple games that LeBron James has played without Anthony Davis, he's actually not done a ton with. That was actually what game was it? I believe it was it Indiana? I believe it was Indiana where he scored 20 points, had 9 rebounds, 9 assists, but he only had 40 fantasy points. Now, that 40 fantasy points isn't bad. But if you think about it, for LeBron James, you're hoping for mid 50s, especially without a guy like Anthony Davis taking up usage. You want him in the 60s. And Anthony Davis makes him a better player because it takes attention off of LeBron. Now, tomorrow, Kawhi Leonard will probably be playing on LeBron quite a bit, but it's Christmas. LeBron always will kick it up a gear during Christmas. I think LeBron's a really great play tomorrow. Power forward position, there weren't really a lot of high spending picks that I wanted to get to. You could get to an Anthony Davis, but personally, I'm going for value here. So I'm going first of all with a guy like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. This is really the only guy I like in that Boston-Toronto game, just because of the low pace and also the low over/under total. Just not a high scoring game, I don't think. I think this will be maybe 100 to 90, one of those games. But for a guy who's priced at 4,100, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson just saw his minutes tick up to 30. He played 37 minutes going against Indiana, scoring 37 fantasy points in that one. Obviously, that was an overtime game, so he was more about into the low to mid 30s. But still, if I'm going to see Rondae Hollis-Jefferson play 30 plus minutes, I will absolutely want to play that at 4-1. He'll be a very popular value pick tomorrow, not only because Boston's not great with defending big men, but Rondé Hollis Jefferson, definitely a guy that's going to be on the floor a lot, has a lot of high upside. Could definitely see high 20s to low 30s, mid 30s, and maybe even low 40s if he's playing a really great game. So Hollis Jefferson definitely in my lineup. My other power forward spot is actually going to be JaMychal Green. So JaMychal Green obviously was out with an injury, came back against OKC, played 18 minutes, put up 21 fantasy points. So obviously had limited usage in that game. But his price tag is only 3,700 right now, guys. So I really like that value for him. I think his minutes will take an uptick. Probably be around the low to mid 20s. And in that price range, going against the Lakers tomorrow, obviously it's a tough spot, which is why his price is so low. But really, you're only looking for a mid 20s, maybe even a low 30s to cover that. And I think JaMychal Green can definitely cover that. I think he's one of those guys that could score mid to high 30s even. He has scored 38 this season against Houston. Obviously, that was beginning of the season where he wasn't hurt, but when he wasn't hurt, guys, he was playing right around mid 20s to low 30s in minutes. So even though his minutes do fluctuate, I do think he's a really good value play tomorrow. I think he's another guy that's going to be kind of popular in terms of value play. But I definitely see JaMychal Green as a guy who can score, who can rebound, and plays very good defense as well. So it could get you some blocks and steal points as well. And then at the center, because I saved so much at the power forward position, I was able to spend up a little bit and grab Clint Capella. Clint Capella's salary tomorrow is 8,700, which is really, really nice for a guy who can definitely score right around 50 to 60 fantasy points. It's been a while since he's actually hit the 50 mark. He's been very close, having 48s in 2 of his last 5. But he hasn't hit the 50 mark, which is why his prices started to go down a little bit. But I really like Clint Capella. He's been doing really well in terms of being able to get to the basket, putting a lot of taking a lot of stress off of James Harden in terms of offense. Russell Westbrook's obviously been playing a lot better lately, which is why Capella's prices started to go down. But 8,700 is too cheap for a guy that can put up 60 in any given night. Put up his last 58 against San Antonio at the beginning of the month. So I think he's long overdue for a really high scoring game. Primetime Capella looking really good tomorrow with a really good matchup going against Golden State. Golden State, not a great defensive team. So that's my lineup overall. I'll go over it quickly again. So we got Simmons and Beverly at point guard, Russell and Lee at shooting guard, George and James at small forward, Hollis Jefferson and JaMychal Green at power forward, and Clint Capella at center. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments section. Follow me on Twitter at Fantasy Talk Show. I'll put my link, or I'll put my Twitter info in the description. And let me know what you guys think. If you tell the lineup, let me know. And hopefully we can get this money tomorrow. And hopefully get another Christmas gift. So good luck tomorrow, guys, and Merry Christmas. Let's get this money.